Good afternoon. Everybody's tired. Yeah. So I want to thank you guys for sticking around for the last part of Ignite. I hope you had a great time. We've learned a lot, I can tell you, from the product group perspective. Hearing your stories and sharing your problems with us only makes our products better. So the first thing I always like to do is thank you. You can thank yourselves too, it's cool. We're all friends here. This really helps us in customer-focused driven technology to make sure that we fix the things that are right for you and prioritize. What I'm here today is to give you a very quick, by all means, you will not be experts in 20 minutes. I wish I could do that. But we're gonna give you some tools and some framework here to basically help you with this problem that we are seeing more and more, which is classic lift and shift. Lift and shift of classic applications that require that old on-prem authentication here. And we're going to show you how to do it with some tools, but we're mainly going to focus on Active Directory domain services. So my name is Mike Stevens. I work in core identity management in Microsoft Azure. And so the objectives today that I want to take away is we're going to define what we call classic apps, because that's the first step of the story is like, well, what is a classic app? And if you're not on the same page, you might be missing what is or is not included in that. Then we're going to talk about the lift and shift. We use this term a lot, but as I talk to customers, some don't know what that means. So we'll define that. Then we're going to talk about a framework of a classic app migration, what it looks like. It's going to change for each environment as I talk to customers and you learn about each app. It's going to slightly change, but we're going to give you a starting point on how to approach that. And then lastly, I'm going to show you some tools, but we're really going to focus on how you can do this with Azure AD Domain Services. So just to show, how many know about Azure AD Domain Services? Okay, cool. I like it. So we had a customer on site about 5 months ago, and we had a bunch of customers in the room. We said, what's the expected reduction of classic applications in your environment over the next 5 years? In percentages, what do you think the number was? Let's hear some guesses. How much are you going to reduce on-prem apps in 5 years? 75%. What is it? 75? Ambitious, I like it. 50. 50. 15. 30. This number was shocking to me. Now, obviously, this is proportional to the number of apps you have and how long you've been in business, because if you're brand new, hopefully you don't have a lot of on-prem stuff, but most companies are not that new, and they have a plethora of these on-prem apps that many of them don't even know about. Like, if you ask, how many apps do you have in your environment today? How many can say they know exactly how many apps they have in their environment today? Okay, one guy. So you might be the only one that's telling the truth. Or you might be the only one fibbing to us. Maybe not. But why is it so low? And I can tell you why. It's because it's hard. It's just hard because finding those apps, once you find those apps, then what do you do with those apps, right? So the way that we want to approach this is, first of all, what is a classic app? So this is for this conversation, or how we're defining classic apps, right? So you have across the top a header-based apps, basic and forms-based auth apps, right? SAML 1.1 and WS-Fed apps. And then we have this whole bottom row here with Windows Integrated Auth, LDAP, Kerberos. How many people know how many apps they have that run NTLM? Do you think you're not running NTLM? Good. This is a big one. It's like NTLM is just this little thing that's in the wild. If you do know you have apps with NTLM, please prioritize those. So this is our definition of classic applications. So now what I want to talk about is, so we now have a structure, what are classic apps? Now let's look at, what do we mean by lift and shift? And when I say that, or when Microsoft says that, this is not a procedure that involves you and a plastic surgeon. This is basically lifting your app from on-prem to Azure, right? So it's taking your infrastructure or your application platform and moving it from residing on-prem and moving it up into the cloud, right? That's step one in any of these. Then the next step is the shift part, which is changing that app or maybe replacing that app from a classic or a legacy authentication to a modern authentication. Okay? So that's really simple. What we mean is lift and shift. Lift, get it off of your on-prem. Reduce your servers, reduce your on-prem infrastructure. Use Azure Compute to help you with that. And then the shift, just as you go through your application migration process, which I'll get to next, decide what apps you're going to shift. Decide what apps you're going to replace. Decide what apps that unfortunately will have to stay that way. And believe me, as I talk to customers, there are apps that just, they're not going to change in anytime soon for that company. And so you're going to have to live with those. So the great thing is we can provide you a way to lift those classic apps up into Azure so you can manage them from there. So the migration phase, this is the one thing that people have asked us for is like, well, how do I approach this? I don't need a playbook, but I kind of need a framework of how do I approach this. So the first one is discover and scope. Discover the apps, that's a hard one. Trying to inventory all your apps, and then scoping those apps. And I highlight the scope here in bold for a reason is because as you go through your inventory of applications, you're going to land in pretty much one of three categories. The app is never going to go away, which means you're stuck with that classic authentication for the immediate and long-term future. The next one is we're not going to move that app now, but we'll move it later, but we still need to go ahead and migrate it and lift it and shift, and we'll shift it later, right? So that's the in-between guy where that you're going to deal with that app for the next 5 to 7 years, maybe longer. But it does have a end of life, whereas the other one is it's never going to go away. And then the third category is we're going to get off of that app and we're going to move to either modern auth, be it we're going to replace it, we're going to rewrite the application, we're going to change the code, however that may be. So as you go through this structure, all of these are going to fall in one of these three categories typically, okay? Then the next thing is do prioritization and plan. I have a slide following this where I'm going to show you this kind of triangle of how you can approach prioritizing which apps you want to use first, which apps to use second, so forth like that. But then once you have the prioritization of your app, gain buy-in. Everything's a lot easier when you get synergy behind it. And so pick your apps. Once you have that app, then gain the buy-in off of this is the app we need to replace, so that way you have an inertia to sit there and move it forward to basically then go to publish that app. So you've got an app, you've identified it, you've got buy-in. Now it's how do we publish this app? So we're going to either use Azure AD Application Proxy, we may use some third-party vendors that we've announced here at Ignite, or you might use Azure AD Domain Services, okay? So this is a very high-level framework, but it gives you a starting point of how to approach the problem space. Does this make sense? Is this reasonable to everybody? Some nods? Okay. Lots of fun at Universal last night. Okay. Here's the app prioritization. I like this slide because it clearly communicates how you can decide what's the important apps to go after, right? And we do this by business criticality on one side, usage on the other side, and then expected lifetime. These are the three factors you should really consider when you're looking at what are your apps going to be. And this is going to help you prioritize those apps. Where I like to suggest, it's going to be different in each environment. What I'd like to suggest is the medium priority app, right? High priority apps, while they're a priority, they're going to take longer. And what I've found is that showing small little nuggets of success helps with getting more buy-in. When you can show one app has been migrated, and then the next one is migrated, right? Once you do this, first of all, it gets you buy-in, as I said before, but then you're gaining momentum in that it's just a same cycle over and over again. You're getting better, you're getting more efficient, you're reevaluating your processes as you start moving each of these apps over, right? So I typically suggest using medium priority for the first two, and then when you get really ambitious or you got it down, then you may be able to do some of these in parallels because these higher priority apps are probably going to take longer because they have to be up all the time. They're very business critical. Okay? So, we've gone over our playbook. We've defined what the apps are. We've given you a process. We've given you a very loose framework. We've talked about how to prioritize. Now what I'm going to do is highlight the solutions because that's the other thing that we're getting better at communicating, but we haven't done a good job just yet, right? What are the solutions Microsoft has and Azure has for you to use for these classic applications and this classic authentication. So the first thing is for header-based authentication, right? We have application delivery vendors we announced today where we have F5, Zscaler, those kinds of things. You can use those with Azure. You can lift those apps up and you can start using this, right? Basic forms off. Azure application proxy. You can go ahead and use this, and you can use this agent to go ahead and get that kind of like SaaS feel to your web-based front-end apps. Where you can, with the proxy, you can sit there and you can do things like conditional access and MFA. How many are using app proxy today? Okay, good portion. Great. The rest of you, look into it. It's really great. If you have some web apps, you use the app proxy and they think they're just signing into a SaaS app, and it's really great, and then it provides you MFA and conditional access capabilities. Really good stuff. So the next one we have is the SAML 1.1 and WS-Fed. So we have, it's been talked about here at Ignite quite a bit, is that we have the ADFS to Azure AD app migration report that allows you to see the usage patterns of these apps, and with that report, it's going to identify which of these apps are going to be, you'll be able to actually migrate the app over to Azure AD, right? So that's a good starting point for those type of apps. Now for the rest of these down here, we have one big solution, and that solution is Azure AD Domain Services, right? This is the bulk of where your on-prem classic apps are going to be. Most of them are going to be LDAP, and then the one thing I'd like to call out to people is don't overlook your networking equipment. There is a lot of networking equipment that still uses LDAP as a directory, right? So let's not overlook the networking equipment when we think about these things. So what is Azure AD Domain Services? I get this a lot, and it's really confused. If you've looked at our docs in the past, it's been kind of weak, and we've had a very diluted message. We've been very active in updating our docs, so if you haven't seen them before, I encourage you, I'll have a link to where you can get to them at the end of the deck. So Domain Services is a managed domain services hosted for you on behalf of Microsoft, right? We take care of all the management. There's no need to deploy, manage, or patch your domain controllers. It is for classic application authentication. So this is not the idea of you joining your on-prem workstations to this. That's not what it's for. It's to help you lift and shift classic applications, okay? The next thing is it has all the features of classic Active Directory. So you can do domain join, group policy, LDAP, Kerberos, NTLM. Provides all of those capabilities, okay? And then integrates with your Azure AD tenant. Your customers, when they use the apps that you've lifted up to Azure AD Domain Services, they just sign in with their Azure UPN and their Azure password. So from the customer experience, they don't know any different. It still feels the same way. We don't want them remembering more than one, right? And then lastly, it's secure. This is something that we're really proud of, is that we delegate you control to manage your application platform. And I've had a challenge to many customers when they get a little scared because we don't give you domain admin or enterprise admin. There's no need for it. And they say, well, I need it. I'm like, okay, hey, go try it out. When you run into something that you can't do, come back at me. 99% of the customers come back and they can do what they need to do as far as from a privilege level. So we do a really good job of giving you just the right amount of control, but making sure that we keep it locked down. And we have a very, very strong internal process, which is smart card, JIT admin access, all kinds of things. If we ever have to get to a domain controller to do some work on it, you have to run through a lot of hoops before we can get to it. Okay? So this is what Domain Services offers for you. And it's super simple, and we've made it very easy for you to get to. So what does it look like, when you think of it visually? So this is the typical on-premise view that we have. Some, your mileage will vary, but you typically have your on-prem AD. You have Azure AD Connect, syncing your identities, groups, memberships, password hashes up to Azure Active Directory. This line here going to the right is a one-way sync of your identities, users, and password hashes over to Domain Services. Inside Domain Services there are two domain controllers. They are real domain controllers running Windows Server. They are injected into a virtual network that you give us as a customer. So we manage the domain controllers. We put them on your virtual network. And then in this virtual network, you can then peer other workloads that are in other virtual networks to where they can do domain join. They can be bound by group policy. They can get Kerberos authentication. All of this happens up inside Azure Compute, okay? This is the typical scenario which you'll have. And then all you do is you keep moving workloads as needed, okay? Now, one thing that people are overlooking is a lot of people that raise their hand about app proxy. How many are using app proxy with domain services? Thank you. We'll talk after this show. This is actually a really good scenario because the typical use case of app proxy is that you just put it on your on-prem and there's no lift. That's not really helping you reduce your on-prem infrastructure, right? So we want to be able to get that stuff off of your on-prem to let you manage it in the cloud. So the idea here is that take that application infrastructure, move it up to Azure AD Domain Services, and then use Azure Application Proxy inside where your app platform is. And then you've lifted it up, and you've actually kind of partially shifted it because you'll have the Azure App Proxy sitting in front, which will be able to authenticate to Azure and do all the goodness that you get with Modern Auth, even though in the background, it's still using Kerberos authentication. So this is a great thing that a lot of people are missing out on, so we want to make sure we show this to you. This is a great move forward because it does actually give you lift and shift for classic applications. So now I want to talk about future investments. So every Friday when I get into the office, I spend about 2 hours just combing the internet about domain services, trying to learn what people are saying, trying to understand it. And I've seen quite a few comments of, it's good, we like it, but I've also seen some things where people have said, well, it hasn't really changed fundamentally in 2 years. Some have actually made claims that, well, it's kind of in maintenance mode, it's just there, and it doesn't look like Microsoft investing in it. Well, I'm here to tell you, we are investing in it, and this slide is to show you how much we are investing in it. So as of today, we released just in the last month security audit logs. This is a big thing that we didn't have before. Now you can actually pipe your logs out to Azure Log Analytics. You can do it to blob storage. You can also do it to event hubs, so you can get all of the audit logs that are on the domain controllers that we manage for you. They can go up and you can put them to your SIM tool, whatever you want. That is actually already out. We just released a simplified creation UI to help customers better onboard domain services, where if there's questions about entering how their domain, what virtual network I pick, we've done that one. We've got migration from Classic. We've been around for about 3.5 years, and when we first came out, we were on Classic VNets. Now everything is Azure Resource Manager, right? So we had to have a way to move everybody off of those Classic VNets. We just released to public preview our migration from Classic to ARM-based resources. So that's a good one. And then as of like 2 weeks ago, we just went to availability zones. So if you create a new instance in a region that supports availability zones, you just get it for free. We make sure that each domain controller that we have is going to be in a different zone in that data center. So that way you have uptime, okay? Now what's to come? This is the part I really like. 2 weeks, we are going to announce public preview for Resource Forest. Resource Forest is a great model for those of you who cannot do password hash sync for some regulatory requirements, or if you're smart card based. That's what these two are for. How this works is you hit the same instance, all of the two domain controllers, everything works the same. What's different is Resource Forest is going to, you use this by creating a one-way outbound trust to your on-prem network using an express route. What that does is it allows you to lift the resources into the resource domain. Users will continue to authenticate to their on-prem network like they have always done. But now when they need to authenticate for resources, the resource authentication will take place exclusively in the Resource Forest. With this, we don't need to sync over your on-prem users and groups and password hashes into our instance because we're not using them. You sign in down there. What we do is we sync over cloud users and cloud groups, so that way those are the people who are going to manage the application platform inside domain services. Next, Selectable SKUs, we've gotten a huge feedback about, well, I want to be able to pick the SKU I'm on. Right now, the way that we do it is we do it by the number of objects that are synchronized into our domain. So we're going to move away from that to where we're going to allow the customer, you get to select the SKU you want for the performance that you want for the apps you're going to be hosting in there. Additionally, we're going to be throwing in other features that are enterprise-ready features for those when you start picking the SKU. So if you want a resource force with, say, 4 trusts, you'll have a SKU that you can pick to accommodate that. If you need more than 4 trusts, we'll have a SKU for that. So we're going to give you more flexibility in picking the options you want for the performance that you want and the features that you want. Further down, we've been working almost a year straight on an improved sync engine. Our sync engine is a little slow, and so we've recognized that from customers like you giving us feedback, and we want to make that sync engine as fast as we can. So we are constantly still working on this. We hope to have this out by next year.
Processing from AD to Azure domain services takes around 20 minutes.
That's AD Connect. I'm the error on the other one.
Between Azure AD to domain services.
Yes, it's part of that sync. Yes, that's the sync that we're working on.
It's now fixed 20 minutes?
No, let's get to that after that because I only have 20 minutes for this session. Let's talk on that. Further down the line, replica sets. This is a big response to the community saying we need geo redundancy and disaster recovery. Right now, we allow you to have one instance and one tenant, and wherever that instance is, it's in that region. We've heard a lot of customers with these apps, I need failover. I need to know that if US West goes down for any reason, I can go to US East, that kind of thing. So we are actively working on a feature called replica sets to where basically when you set up the first instance, you have a replica set there, and then subsequently you can pick other regions and you can add a replica set of that instance into that region that is connected to the original one through a peered virtual network. So then now you can have replica sets all over in different regions, so that way once your app's aware, your app can fall over to the appropriate region that it needs to. Sovereign clouds is coming. I don't need to stress to everybody, we hear you loud and clear, sovereign clouds is coming. So we are working on that, so just again to let you know about this one. And then one of my big favorites here is multiple instances. So for the longest time, we've heard loud and clear that we can only have one instance of domain services in your tenant. So we are actively working on the ability to where now, if you want 30 for your business units or you want to do identity isolation for each application, you'll be able to have as many instances of domain services that you want to be able to support all of this lift and shift that you want for your classic apps. So if you have a business unit, so you want marketing to have their own version, you can be able to have marketing have their own version, which is separate from the version that maybe HR uses or that sales uses. Okay? What do you think of this roadmap? Are we heading in the right direction? Nods, okay. So these are the resources that I want you to share with you. I've shortcutted all these. One is our docs. Again, we are really trying to make sure that our docs are crisp. If there's something wrong there, please file a bug. You can do that yourself. You just go click the edit button and tell us. We have an excellent writer who helps us with this, as well as myself and my other colleagues. The second one is for the activity report. This is a docs on how you can get that ADFS activity report. And then the third one is user voice. How many people know about user voice? Okay, good pair. If there's something missing, we missed a feature, let us know. User voice is a way to where you can go in, explain to the problem that you're having and or a feature that's missing, and it's public. And then what happens is then others can see it, and if they value it, they can upvote it. And I will let you know, our team looks at user voice every month. And when we go into planning about features, we pay attention to where user voice sits. So please, if there's something that's missing from the service or something lacking from the service, upvote it user voice. Create it, and don't create a duplicate. That's a little bit misleading there. Just upvote one, but if you have one that's not there, then please create it, because that's the easiest way to let the product group know that we're missing out on something. I want to thank you, as we've been preaching all the way, enable MFA, and thanks for coming, guys, and please do your evals. And I will be off to the side to answer any questions you want because we only had 20 minutes.